I'm Carl from Studio In-Car, and this is the Heco Celan Revolution 3. Let's take a look. So, Revolution 3. The last speakers I had with Revolution in their name were the Tannoy Mercury Revolution R1, or was it just the Tannoy Revolution R1? Mid-90s stand mount speaker, and I used to absolutely adore them. I was a kid at the time, didn't have a set. I bought a set 5 or 6 years ago, just on eBay, good condition. And yeah, speakers have moved on a lot in the past 20, 30 years. So yeah, here we are with these Heco Celan Revolution 3s. There's a million different ways you can say that. That's just my way of saying it, so don't shoot me. Heco's not a name I'm crazy familiar with. I remember them bringing out the Heco Direct a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I think. A speaker I instantly fell in love with. You know, it looks a bit like me. It's relatively short, quite square, good looking, you know. But you know, that sort of speaker, that sort of audio note style, big face, 8-inch driver sort of speaker rings true with me. So not heard a set. I haven't even heard a set on sort of demonstration, so I'm looking forward to bringing them in. But you know, if they perform anything like these guys, then I'm sure we're going to be in for a good time. So the the Celan Revolution 3, the reason why we're here, stop sidetracking, 1299, 1299 quid. So don't know what it is US or anything like that, but yeah, £1,299. 3 finishes, satin white that we have here with the, you know, all of them have the sort of machined surrounds, gloss black, and a nice wood finish, a nice veneer finish. 10.5 kilos per speaker, which, you know, is a fair amount for a stand mount speaker. When the gentleman brought them in for us to you know, the supplier of Heco brought them in for us to try, he was a little bit, he was sort of, I said to him, "You look knackered, mate." But I didn't believe that a couple of stand mount speakers could be that heavy until he left, and I lifted them up off the floor onto my desk. Bloody hell. Yeah, so I didn't expect them to be as substantial as they are. That's the first thing to note when you get them out of their box. They are large stand mounts. They're not, you know, they're not stand mounts for the faint-hearted. They are on the larger side for stand mounts, in my opinion, and they weigh a lot. They're extremely robust. They feel like they can take a good drop. You could drop them and they'll damage what they hit rather than take damage on board themselves, you know. Build-wise, incredible. You can't fault them. The build is flawless. The paint is flat. If it is paint, it might be I'm pretty sure it is a satin paint. The machined outers of the drivers, maybe too blingy for some. They're just the right side of it for me. I'm not a white speaker fan, but I think the white speaker plays down that machine finish. Might be a bit too much on the piano black for me, and it might look really nice on the wood, you know. The binding post section on the back, fit and finish is just perfect. You've got plus 2 dB, minus 2 dB on the terminals there, so you can attenuate if they're a little bit too forward. And a nice flared port. The port isn't too large. I see a few people saying it's got an extremely large port. It hasn't. It's got like maybe a 1.75 or 2-inch port, but it has a large flare, so they've obviously put a bit of work into that. I've been running these 50 to 60 centimeters from the front wall. I've been running these with the SPL Elector preamp, the SPL Performer S1200 power amp. Oh, what a pair. And the Auralic Altair G1.1 streamer. I've been running them for a little while now. And yeah, well, some might say that it could be a skewed system. Typically you would run a posher speaker with posher kit, you know. It's nice sometimes to empty a big system into smaller speakers, or speakers that aren't worthy, because yeah, you kind of wring everything out of them, you know. If you're going to, if there's going to be any flaws, it'll be on show with higher end kit, surely. They're 90 dB sensitive. Yay! Love sensitive speakers. We don't get them too often now. It's kind of more of an old-fashioned thing where you had minimal power, your speaker had to be very sensitive. Sensitive speakers naturally have this this speedy capability, this dynamic sort of snap. They're just They're a pleasure to listen to. Anything with high sensitivity, you get your equipment right and you can have a really good dynamic time, you know. So yeah, I'm made up about that. Yeah. So in, you know, in theory, we should have a good scenario on our hands, but in practice, let's discuss. They've got a lovely detailed presentation. This speaker is for the type of listener that sort of errs on the side of higher frequency and mid-range detail. They're quite a forward sounding speaker, as you would expect from quite a sensitive speaker. We're running them with equipment as well that sounds very energetic, powerful, lively equipment. You know, you could probably calm them down either with their -2 dB post on the back or, you know, a slightly tamer, warmer, smoother sounding kit, you know. But they do have that, you know, from sort of lower volume, they'll give you all the detail. They don't leave much to the imagination in terms of the finer, smaller intricacies within the track. Yeah, so they're quite on you in terms of high frequency resolution, which, you know, for most is quite a nice thing. For some, it might be a little bit too much, and I get that, but that's what that demographic exists. You know, we're all different. Some prefer a smoother speaker, some prefer a slightly lazier speaker that we can give loads of power to and you get loads of bottom end. Some prefer a delicate sounding speaker that's quite energetic from its mid-range sort of bark right through to the higher frequencies, which this speaker is. It's got a very snappy mid-bass, good bass weight and good speed. So there was certain Stone Roses track that I was listening to earlier on with a bongo and a bass guitar, so two distinctly different sort of bass realms. Some would say lower mid-range to upper mid-bass for the bongo, and the speed of the bongo is very realistic, it's very in the room with me, and the lower bass from the bass guitar was full and it was playing very pleasantly. The mix between the two, there is no real correlation between the two, but the mix within the track, the blend from the lower frequencies to the sort of mid-bass frequencies was lovely, as to be expected from a sort of single, you know, 6.5 inch driver. There's no real crossover to get over there, you know. And the blend was really nice, surprisingly low as well. In the same track, that bass guitar, it plays real low, some of the big sort of air moving stuff, and they played it fully. You know, it sounded, the detail was in there, the timing was nice on the sort of lower bass notes, which is often where, say, sub £1,500 speakers can struggle, you know. But yeah, it was all there, yeah, all the way through. And there's no, like I say, they're quite a forward sounding speaker. There's no distinct softening off of bass or distance between the bass section and the higher frequencies, or almost as if the you know, the low pass point is further back than the high pass point. It's not like that. It just tends to lean forward for the mid-range and higher frequency. So yeah, we played them at low volumes, at high volumes, you know, and characteristics stay similar. On edgy tracks are one of my notes in my book on particularly edgy track. I played a track from the Libertines where they don't really care about the way they sound. A lot of sort of punk, indie stuff, things like that. You know, if you're specifically within that genre and you're into hi-fi, the chances are you already have a relatively smooth sounding speaker just to knock that edge off of bands like that. With a speaker like this, it's going to throw it at you. You're going to get it full force, that's it. And it can often be a hard thing to listen to, you know. So bad tracks and edgy tracks, it's probably not the speaker for you, because its full-on sort of detail approach is gonna force that on you. But yeah, overall, I've been impressed with the Heco Celan Revolution 3. I really don't like quad barrel names for speakers, but it is what it is. I've been quite impressed with them. I'm okay with the way they look. I know I'm not a white speaker fan, but I think the white and the machined sort of metal finish, I don't know if it's like a steel or alloy, it's probably an alloy of some description, the waveguide around the tweeter, it looks really pleasant. They are a large stand mount, as I've said, so you have to bear that in mind. You know, if you've got a small room, regardless of sound, the aesthetic, they're a big speaker, and their tapered top makes them look larger as well, makes them look taller. It puts the tweeter almost in the center of the speaker because of the way that the speaker is skewed. So you might want to consider that. But full-bodied, detailed mid-range, detailed high frequency, which is a relatively forward sound. If that's for you, it's got to be on your shortlist. And at $12.99, that's a surprisingly low amount of money for this speaker. This is a lot of speaker for that money. So that's been Heco Celan Revolution 3. I've been Carl from Studio in Car. Have a nice weekend. Take it easy.